My hands shook as I stared at the email. Another rejection. The third client complained about my work this month. But I knew the truth. Derek had sabotaged me again. He sat across the office, laughing with his buddies, probably telling them how he'd fixed another one of my mistakes. I'd been at TechFlow Dynamics for 2 years, and every day felt like walking through quicksand. Derek Walsh, our team lead, had made it clear from day one that he didn't think I belonged here. The worst part? I was starting to believe him. My confidence was dying a slow death, and I felt trapped. But something inside me was building, a quiet fire that Derek had no idea existed. Maya, my office, now. Derek's voice cut through the morning buzz like a blade. I grabbed my notebook and walked past my teammates. Some gave me sympathetic looks. Others just stared at their screens. Everyone knew what these meetings meant. Derek sat behind his desk like a king on his throne, his expensive suit perfectly pressed. He didn't even look up when I entered. "Sit down," he said, still typing. "We need to talk about your performance. Again." The word again hung in the air like poison. I sat down and waited. This was how it always started. The slow, methodical destruction of whatever confidence I had left from the day before. "The Peterson account is unhappy," Derek said, finally looking at me. "They're saying the reports you sent were incomplete." I felt my heart sink. I'd spent 3 days on those reports, triple-checked everything. "Derek, I followed the exact template you gave me. I can show you." "Don't make excuses, Maya. This is about accountability." He leaned back in his chair, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. "Maybe you're just not cut out for this level of work. Some people have natural talent, others." He shrugged. The silence that followed felt like a slap. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that I knew he'd change my reports before sending them to the client. But I had no proof. "I think I need to reassign some of your bigger clients," Derek continued. "Maybe start you on some easier projects. Baby steps, you know?" His tone was so condescending it made my skin crawl. "I don't need baby steps," I said quietly. "I need you to stop sabotaging my work." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Derek raised an eyebrow, his smirk growing wider. "Sabotaging? That's a serious accusation, Maya. Do you have any proof of this?" "Sabotaging?" He said the word like it tasted funny. I sat there, speechless. We both knew I didn't have proof. That was the point. Derek was too smart to leave fingerprints on his destruction. But I wasn't imagining it. I knew what I knew. "I thought so," Derek said when I didn't respond. "Look, Maya, I'm trying to help you here. But if you're going to make wild accusations instead of taking responsibility..." He shook his head like a disappointed parent. "Maybe you should think about whether this is really the right fit for you." The threat was clear. Shape up or ship out. I stood up slowly, my legs feeling weak. "Is that all?" I asked. "For now," he said, already turning back to his computer. "Oh, and Maya, close the door behind you." I walked out on shaking legs, feeling the eyes of my coworkers on me. Another public humiliation. Another day of wondering if I was losing my mind. I went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. The tears came fast and hard. 2 years of this. 2 years of being made to feel stupid, incompetent, worthless. I'd started at TechFlow as a confident college graduate with big dreams. Now I felt like a shell of myself. I pulled out my phone and stared at my LinkedIn profile. When was the last time I'd even updated it? I'd been so beaten down, so convinced I was the problem, that I'd stopped trying to grow. That I'd stopped believing I deserved better. But sitting there in that bathroom stall, something shifted. Maybe I was done being Derek's punching bag. Maybe it was time to remember who I used to be. The rest of the day dragged by like a funeral march. Every email felt like a trap. Every project felt like another chance for Derek to tear me down. But I started paying attention to things I'd ignored before. Like how Zoe from accounting always looked stressed after her meetings with Derek. How Alex, our best developer, had stopped speaking up in team meetings. How the whole office felt heavy, like everyone was walking on eggshells. It wasn't just me. Derek had created a culture of fear, and we were all living in it. The realization hit me like a lightning bolt. I wasn't the problem. Derek was. And if I could see it, others probably could too. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I updated my LinkedIn profile. I looked at job postings. I remembered what it felt like to have hope. My phone buzzed with a text from my college roommate Priya. "How's work going?" For the first time in forever, I didn't lie. I told her everything. About Derek, about the sabotage, about feeling trapped. Her response surprised me. "Maya, the person I knew in college would never let someone treat her like that. What happened to that girl?" I stared at her message for a long time. What had happened to that girl? She was still in there somewhere, buried under 2 years of abuse. Maybe it was time to dig her out. The next morning, I walked into the office with a different energy. I said good morning to my teammates, actually smiled at a few people. It felt strange, like flexing a muscle I hadn't used in years. Around 10, Derek called another impromptu meeting. "The Johnson presentation needs to be redone," he announced to our team. Maya's version was, let's say, not up to our standards. I felt the familiar shame start to creep in, but then I remembered something. I'd saved a backup of my original presentation, and I'd seen the version Derek sent to the client. They were different, very different. This time I had proof. The realization made my heart race. Finally, after 2 years, I had him. "Actually, Derek," I said, surprising everyone, including myself, "I'd like to review the feedback with you, to understand where I went wrong." Derek looked annoyed. "There's no need. Just redo it." "But I want to learn," I pressed. "Could you show me the specific issues they mentioned?" The room got quiet. Derek shifted in his seat. "We don't have time for a training session, Maya." "It'll just take 5 minutes," I said sweetly. "I have both versions right here on my laptop." The color drained from Derek's face just slightly. He knew what I was saying. I had evidence. The power dynamic in the room shifted and everyone felt it. For the first time in 2 years, Derek looked uncomfortable. "Fine," Derek said tightly. "We'll discuss it after the meeting." But I wasn't letting him off the hook that easily. Actually, since the whole team worked on this project, maybe they should hear the feedback too, so we can all learn. Derek's jaw clenched. He was trapped. If he refused, it would look suspicious. If he agreed, his sabotage would be exposed. "That's not necessary," he said. "I think it is," I replied calmly. "Transparency makes us all better, right?" The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Finally, Derek nodded curtly. "Fine. Conference room, 5 minutes." As everyone filed out, I caught Zoe's eye. She gave me a small, encouraging smile. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. In the conference room, I opened both presentations side by side on the big screen. "This is what I submitted," I said, clicking through my version. "Clean, professional, comprehensive. And this is what the client received." Click. Derek's version was a disaster. Missing slides, broken formatting, incomplete data. The difference was shocking. The room was dead silent. Everyone could see what had happened. Derek had sabotaged my work, made it look amateur, then blamed me for the client's rejection. "There must be some mistake," Derek said weakly. "No mistake," I replied, my voice steady and strong. "I have timestamps, email trails, everything." The evidence was overwhelming. Derek had been caught red-handed, and everyone knew it. "This is obviously some technical glitch," Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Maya probably corrupted the file somehow." I almost laughed. Even now, he was trying to blame me. "The metadata doesn't lie, Derek. Someone manually edited this presentation after I submitted it. Someone with access to the shared drive." I clicked to the file properties. There it was, clear as day. Derek's username, timestamps showing he'd modified my work at 11:47 p.m. the night before the client meeting. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Alex whistled low under his breath. "Damn," he whispered. Derek's face had gone from pale to red. He'd been exposed in front of the entire team, and there was nowhere to hide. "I was just making improvements," Derek stammered. "It's my job to quality check everything." "By deleting half the content and introducing formatting errors?" I asked. "That's not quality control, Derek. That's sabotage." The word hung in the air like a bomb. I could see my teammates exchanging glances. This wasn't the first time they'd wondered about Derek's feedback. How many of them had suffered the same treatment? How many had been gaslit into thinking they were the problem? "Maya, let's discuss this privately," Derek said through gritted teeth. "No," I replied firmly. "I think we've had enough private discussions. The team deserves to know the truth." The power had completely shifted. Derek was no longer the predator. He was cornered prey. "You know what, Derek?" I said, standing up straighter than I had in months. I'm done. I'm done with your games, your manipulation, your toxic leadership. I quit. Derek actually laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a cruel, dismissive laugh that I'd heard too many times before. You quit? Maya, who's going to hire you after the reputation you've built here? Good luck explaining why you couldn't handle a simple junior role. The old me would have crumbled. The old me would have believed him. But the old me didn't have proof of his sabotage displayed on a conference room screen. I think I'll be just fine, I said calmly. In fact, I already have somewhere to go. That was a lie, but Derek didn't need to know that. Derek's laugh got louder. Where? Burger King? Maya, you're delusional if you think any serious company will want you after this performance. He gestured around the room like he was addressing an audience. Everyone here has seen your work. They know what kind of employee you are. But something beautiful happened then. Alex stood up. Actually, Derek, what we've seen is a pattern of you destroying people's confidence and taking credit for their successes. Zoe nodded. I've been wondering why my reports kept getting rejected too. Now I know. One by one, my teammates started speaking up. Derek's reign of terror was crumbling in real time. His laugh died in his throat as he realized he'd pushed too far. This is ridiculous, Derek snapped. Maya has poisoned you all against me. She's manipulative and— Stop, said Jamie, our quiet designer who rarely spoke in meetings. Just stop, Derek. We're not blind. We've all felt it. The way you tear people down, steal credit, make us feel worthless. Maya just had the courage to say it out loud. The room erupted in agreement. Story after story poured out. Projects sabotaged, ideas stolen, confidence destroyed. Derek had been running a masterclass in workplace abuse, and everyone had a horror story. You're all making a huge mistake, Derek said, his voice shaking with rage. I'm the one who keeps this team together. Without me, you're nothing. But his words had lost their power. We could all see him clearly now. I walked out of that conference room feeling like I could fly. Within an hour, I'd cleaned out my desk and said my goodbyes. But something unexpected happened as I was leaving. Alex caught up with me in the parking lot. Maya, wait, he said. I meant what I said in there. Derek's been destroying this place for years. Some of us have been talking. If you really do have somewhere to go, we'd love to hear about it. I looked at him surprised. You'd actually consider leaving? Are you kidding? Half the team's been updating their resumes since that meeting. We're just waiting for the right opportunity. My mind started racing. What if this wasn't just about me escaping Derek? What if this was about something bigger? That night, I did something crazy. I reached out to Rafael Santos, the CEO of Innovate Tech Labs, TechFlow's biggest competitor. We'd met at a conference last year and he'd given me his card. If you ever want to work for a company that actually values talent, he'd said. I'd kept that card for 8 months, never imagining I'd use it. But desperate times called for desperate measures. I sent him an email explaining my situation, attaching examples of my real work, not Derek's sabotaged versions. To my shock, he replied within an hour. Maya, I remember you. Can we talk tomorrow? My hands were shaking as I typed back, absolutely. Maybe this leap of faith wasn't so crazy after all. The meeting with Rafael went better than I'd dared to hope. He offered me a senior position, more money, better benefits, and most importantly, a team that actually functioned like a team. We've been watching TechFlow's struggles, he admitted. We know they have talented people trapped in a toxic environment. If you know others who might be interested. I smiled. Actually, I might know a few people. By the end of the week, I'd made 5 phone calls. Alex, Zoe, Jamie, Carlos, and Naya, all top performers who'd been crushed under Derek's leadership. All of them were interested. Very interested. Rafael was thrilled. It's like getting a pre-built team, he said. This could be the best acquisition we've ever made. The resignations started on Monday. Alex was first, turning in his notice with a smile I hadn't seen in months. Then Zoe, then Jamie. By Wednesday, Carlos and Naya had followed suit. Derek was panicking. He'd lost his 5 best team members in 1 week and everyone knew why. Upper management started asking questions. How does a team lead lose half his staff in 7 days? Derek tried to spin it as a conspiracy, claiming I'd poisoned everyone against him. But the executives weren't stupid. They'd seen the presentation evidence, they'd heard the stories, the writing was on the wall. Derek's days were numbered. and everyone knew it. My last day at TechFlow became legendary. Derek cornered me in the break room, his face red with rage. "You think you're so smart?" he hissed. "You think you've won something? You'll be back here begging for your job within 6 months. All of you will." I looked at him calmly. "Derek, in 6 months, you'll be lucky if TechFlow still exists. You've spent 2 years driving away your best talent. Now you get to explain to the board why your department is falling apart." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me one last time. "You're nothing without this company. Nothing." I smiled. "We'll see about that." And I walked away, leaving him standing alone in that break room, finally powerless. 3 months later, I was thriving at Innovate Tech. Our little refugee team had exceeded every expectation. We'd landed 2 major clients that TechFlow had been chasing for years. Raphael kept talking about expanding our department. My confidence was back, stronger than ever. But the best part? The updates from former colleagues still at TechFlow. Derek had been restructured out of his leadership role after the mass exodus. The company was struggling to replace the talent they'd lost. Several clients had followed us to Innovate Tech, frustrated with TechFlow's declining service quality. Derek's toxic leadership had finally caught up with him, and the whole industry was watching his spectacular fall from grace. The real victory came 6 months after I'd quit. TechFlow's CEO called me personally. They wanted me back as Derek's replacement, leading the team I'd helped build. The irony was delicious. "Thanks, but no thanks," I told him. "I'm happy where I am." And I was. I'd found my voice, my confidence, my power. I'd learned that sometimes walking away isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself. Derek had tried to convince me I was nothing without TechFlow. Instead, I'd proven that TechFlow was nothing without people like me. The scared, broken person Derek had tried to create was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and completely unafraid. Looking back, I'm almost grateful to Derek. His toxicity forced me to rediscover my strength. His sabotage taught me to document everything. His cruelty showed me the power of standing up for myself and others. Most importantly, his laughter when I said I'd leave became the catalyst for the best career move I ever made. 6 months later, I was promoted to VP at Innovate Tech. My team, the same people Derek had tried to destroy, was winning awards and breaking records. Derek, meanwhile, was working at a small firm across town, his reputation in ruins. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's proving them wrong by becoming everything they said you could never be. And that's exactly what we did.